The things began to change when the Germans took over our town. And the orders were then happening quite fast.
They would march us out into this so-called open area, like a marketplace, and would count us for no purpose at all. I don't know what the reason was for that, because nobody could escape. Where would they be running?
I think at this point the Germans wanted to really eradicate Europe of all the Jews.
I think there were about 2,700 people in the camp yet who marched out. And one of them was somebody I worked with, I knew well. They all were shot. And one of the SS was looking at us. We were lying there and couldn't move. Says, don't waste a bullet on them. We don't have to worry about them, because they figured they would die anyway.
I always wondered in the camps how these men and women can go home to their families. Didn't they have any heart? Didn't they have, were they stripped of all the humane feelings to treat another human being so cruelly?
They forced us into a barrack where they told us to undress.
Then we were lined up and we were tattooed.
And there were people with syringes, like syringes. And these were the tattooing that they were doing.
I had a number A17291.
And because they made a mistake on my mother's arm with the number, they crossed it off with a needle, with a tattoo needle, and they put another number on it. So my mother had two numbers.
My number is 134,263.
So now we were marked. We were branded like you would brand a horse, an animal.
We weren't names. We weren't human beings. We were just numbers, you know?
At this point, we were referred to verfluchte Juden, damn Jews, or vermins.
My number was 103,643.
I guess psychologically, this was easier for the Germans to kill or to mistreat a vermin than a human being. I always wondered in the camps how these men and women can go home to their families.
In Bergen-Belsen, we had to put out bodies every morning. They were just falling, dying of hunger. They used to pile them outside like wood in front of the bunk. Each morning, they piled out bodies.
We were evacuated from Auschwitz in January of 1944 because the Russians were coming closer. And we were given, each one of us was given a quarter of a loaf of bread for the trip.
The front came closer and they couldn't take them back to the concentration camps. So they put them between pieces of wood and they burned them alive. That was my uncle and his sons.
We marched for 3 days and 3 nights nonstop, and whoever couldn't walk was shot.
And we know that 16,000 people left Mauthausen, and we found out after the war that not even 8,000 arrived. And this was like a 3 or 4 day march.
And out of 1,500, when it was over, only 60 of us were alive.
Of the 260, 60 of us survived. And out of the 60, 5 or 6 adults, I'm speaking of my parents' age, the others were all gone.
All of a sudden, I heard bullets, and the wall behind me caved in. And I turned around and I looked at it and I saw a Russian tank. And I started to scream, "Girls, we are liberated. The Russians are here."
Suddenly the guards disappeared, and we heard planes flying over because this was in the forest. The camp was in the forest. And in the whole 5-6 days that we were there, it was raining, damp and things like this. And Saturday, suddenly the sun came out and started to shine. And this is when I left the camp with my friends.
And I started to dance. I says, "We are liberated." I started to cry, hysterical.
We were crying and laughing. It was a Shabbos. There's a few people left for us, very few.
And when we came out to the highway, the Third Army was marching with command cars and things like that. They used to throw cigarettes and chocolates and things like this. And I took a cigarette, and as I smoked, I collapsed. It was so strong, it knocked me out completely.
And I should be happy, and I couldn't be happy because somehow I forgot how to be happy.
But we saw the American soldiers, and we didn't know who they were. But after a while, it dawned on us that these were Americans. And it was the most beautiful sight in the world. We loved them. They were our angels, our rescuers. They came and rescued us. They threw food at us. It was just the most wonderful feeling in the world. And everything else is history, right?